For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise. And you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble, and thanks for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. You know, last week we had that tribute to Aretha Franklin, a legendary artist. She passed away, and we were joined by one of our friends at Entertainment Tonight and fellow Winnipegger recording artist Chantal Kreviazuk. So if you missed it, definitely check it out. It was a great 30 minutes to honor the Queen of Soul. Online dating websites, dating apps, it is the new thing when it comes to relationships. We're going to talk about it all on the show this week. 30 minutes of relationship chatter, and it begins right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
All right, well, a couple of weeks ago, I made no friends talking about my thoughts when it comes to online dating, websites and apps, and all the technology that is helping people come together, but also maybe kind of split them and divide them. And so my thoughts are one thing, but I like to hear from you, our listeners, and also some Bachelor Nation fans. And I'm joined on the line by Michelle and Holly. Hello, ladies.
Hello. Hi there.
All right, so when it comes to dating, and again, I love hearing a woman's perspective on things like this. Let's start at the beginning. Online dating. Have either of you done it?
Oh, God, I have.
Okay, Michelle, I imagine you have some interesting stories because I know you. Now, full disclosure, Michelle and I met at a red carpet event a couple of years ago in my hometown of Winnipeg. And I want to hear your story, Michelle, because I know you're a good storyteller.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Yeah, so I started online dating after I went through a divorce in 2005. And my online dating location of choice was Lava Life. And I started with, of course, a profile, you know, and you always go through, like, what picture am I going to put up and what story am I going to tell about myself to have people, you know, choose me to talk to. And right off the hop, the very first, you know, you get these little live chats on the top. If the gentlemen who usually have to pay to be on these things, the women don't, in a lot of cases, it popped up and said, hey, you know, you look really cute, want to hear a bit about me. I'm like, well, I guess so, sure, I'm bored. And I never said that, but that was what was going through my head. So I said, sure. And so he started posting all these pictures of himself immediately, like popped up a picture of him with his car, a picture of him with his boat, a picture of him in his kitchen dressed as Elvis, you know, posing in, you know, his beautiful kitchen. And I said, where are you going with this? And he said, well, come on, babe, we all know that women just want a man who's going to have a lot of money and treat them well. And I said, well, then you know, I'm not the woman for you. And he then went into a crazy tirade about how we are all money hungry, sorry, but bitches. And that good luck to me in ever finding anybody.
Wow, so how'd the second date go?
Well, I blocked him immediately. Okay. And then from there I went on to meet, it was awful. I ended up meeting up with somebody for a coffee date who said he didn't smoke and that he was fully employed and that he had a really nice car. He showed up. He was smoking and he had no mirrors on the sides of his vehicle. Never cut his toenails like for the last 2 years. It was like Jim Carrey in Dumb and Dumber. And it was just horrific. And I thought, oh my God, like, this is horrible. Like, what am I doing?
Okay, Holly, I want your perspective on this. So, some things that Michelle just said. Out of nowhere, saying that you're cute. Do you feel that's a compliment, or would you prefer somebody say, hey, you sound really intelligent? Which would you prefer, Holly?
I don't necessarily get offended if someone says that you're cute off the bat. That doesn't offend me. But if, like, their follow-up conversation, it just focuses on my appearance, then yeah, that would bother me.
Okay, let's talk about the pictures, because, Michelle, you were saying that these were pictures that were being sent to you, like, directly, or were they on his page that were coming up?
No, they were not on his page. He was sending them like shotgun, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they were all of him, in some sunny southern spot, like Mexico or something, and then him by his car, by his boat, in his kitchen, posing, he just looked, quite honestly, ridiculous. And like someone I would have absolutely no interest in, and he was trying to, appeal to me with what he has as opposed to perhaps what he has between his two ears. So it just turned me off immediately. And then he went on when I told him and I actually did, I said, you know what, I'm not interested, but I wish you well on your search. He's like, yeah, typical female, you're all the same. And he really did go crazy. And I thought, what am I doing on this? But they're not all like that. But that was I swear to God, that was my very first introduction back in those days to this online dating situation.
Holly, do you think that more pictures the better, or maybe one or two? Because my thought would be, if somebody starts asking me for more and more pictures, one, I would say, are you interested in me for who I am or what I look like? And two, I would say, I look like me in all of them. How different do you expect me to look? So, Holly, what would be your magic number of pictures that somebody would have to have on their profile?
Well, I agree with you. I think, 2 or 3 is enough for me, and I agree. You don't need to see like 20 pictures of one individual. And the thing that bothers me is when people start posting like bathroom selfies with their shirt off. I mean, if I see a picture like that, I'm done. I can't deal with that.
Well, then stop looking at my Instagram. Okay, so. But that's the thing. Now, speaking of pictures, I find, and I wrote a newspaper column about this, I believe you two have checked that out, and I mentioned it on the radio as well, that I feel like people try to distract, that they'll post pictures of themselves with a group of people. So at some point, I'm not even sure who you are. Because I'm kind of like, well, are you this? Okay, this person's in 2 of them, so maybe it's okay, but this person's in 3 of them. Wait a second, now which one? Like, who is it? And so I kind of see that you're almost sort of distracting. And then there's the people who have the pictures with their pets. Don't get me wrong, I have pictures of my pets, but I almost kind of feel like you're trying to use that as like a bonus, and like, oh, okay, because the pet is in the picture. Okay, well, you're more attractive now at that point. Is that just my thought, or do either of you agree?
I agree with the group. Yeah,
sorry, Holly, go ahead.
I agree with the group picture. Because I'm going to go ahead, to be honest with you, I have made the mistake one time of, and it's been a long time since I've done a dating app, but I made the mistake one time of posting a picture of me and a girlfriend of mine, and I'll admit she's a gorgeous girl, and he thought I was my friend in the picture. I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. So I agree with that. But the pictures with the pets, that doesn't necessarily bother me. I don't care about that. That wouldn't bother me.
Yeah, see, I'm kind of with Holly on that. The pictures of the pets, that's fine. Pictures of kids, especially when their faces are blurred out, I'm thinking, do you only have pictures like that? No. And I do agree that group pictures are not the best idea because, like Holly said, especially if it's a bunch of people, who is the real person in the profile?
Well, I said that, but that's wow. But now you mentioned kids. Now we've seen this on Bachelor and Bachelorette. What about being upfront about the kid thing? And is it something that you mention once you're together? And secondly, does it depend on the age of your kids?
Well, as somebody who has kids and who had very young kids when I first started this online dating, I think you do have to mention that you have children, because for some people, that's an issue. And for me, it's an issue if you don't want to be with me because I have children. So yes, but it doesn't mean I'm going to post any kind of pictures of them. Like, you have to be appropriate. I mean, the thing is, you want them to be engaged in a conversation with you. It's not about your children. And also, you want to protect your kids, right? Especially if they're underage. So yeah, like, I just, but you have to be upfront about that because they're going to find out about them. It's like a cat saying, oh, I don't have any pets, and then they find out, oh, you have a cat, and basically maybe that person's allergic to them. Like, who the heck knows?
Yeah, I agree with you, Michelle, because if you're, like, really looking for a serious relationship, you want to, be full disclosure up front. Otherwise, it just could not go the way you want it to.
The same thing could be said about posting pictures of your pets, though, right? Maybe the person's a dog lover and they're just using you for your pet because they can't have one where they live. I mean, come on.
That, you know what? I'm telling you, Jeremy, that's a very good point and one I never thought of. So look at you thinking.
There we are. Okay, so how long do you message somebody back and forth before suggesting that you meet up? Because for me, like, from what I gather, some people, it's like time is money. I don't want to waste my time getting one message from you in the morning, getting one from you later tonight, waking up and getting one from you. Let's pick up the pace. Like, let's just have a regular conversation. So do you go to a phone call next? Do you then meet up? Like, is there a time frame for meeting up or taking it to the next level? And by the next level, I just mean upping the communication. Either of you?
Well, okay, Holly, I hope you don't mind I'm taking this one because one of the first things that I don't want to have is like, hey, baby, how's it going? Do you want to have phone sex? If you're going to do that, then I'm like, I'm not even interested. If you want to have a phone conversation, I feel that you can find a lot about a person through a phone call just based on voice. Perhaps I've had one guy that I did that with, and he was in the process of having a conversation with somebody completely different on his cell phone while he was on his landline with me. So, kind of, you can hide behind the computer very easily, and then when you're in a situation like that, or maybe, his real girlfriend actually walks into the room and catches him having a conversation with you. So, I think you do want to go there. I don't think that's bad. I think it's you sometimes move it to your private email. Like maybe you're willing to give your email, and then you start conversing through email. Now, texting might be the next step. So yeah, and I think that's a good way to start finding out about who somebody is, and if you really want to waste or spend your time with that person.
Okay, Holly, you have 3 messages back and forth, and the person is like, "Hey, what's your phone number?" Do you give it?
No, I have to move at a slower pace. If I feel like I'm being pressured and I'm not ready, then that spooks me and I will just back off. And I think a lot of it has to do with, like, the conversation and the feeling that you're getting from the person, the comfort level. So if I'm feeling a comfort level from the person, meaning they're not constantly asking me about my appearance or, sexual questions, whatever, then I might be more inclined to give them my phone number quicker. But after 3 messages, no, I'm not ready to give my phone number.
Do you ask the person if they are getting to know other people? Michelle, is it sort of like a bachelorette thing? Do you press for details on their other conversations? Because for me, I wouldn't like the fact that I'm not the only one that you're communicating with. Or do you just assume you're the only one? How do you feel that out, Michelle?
I never assume I'm the only one. Never, and I never did, never, not once. And especially if we are in a live chat situation, if I'm noticing that it's kind of like texting. If you're noticing that there's like a long period of time that they're not in the conversation with you, it's like, so what's going on? Are you talking to other people? And, in fairness, I am probably too, but I'm at least admitting to that. And if they say they're not, I call BS. And I think that they are. And I'd rather them be honest with me than just try to tell me a tale.
Holly, when you're locked in on someone, you've got them in your sights, it's green light, all signals are go. Do you keep playing the field and messaging others, or do you focus on that one person?
I think it depends on how, if I have a really good feeling about this person, like I could see like a relationship with this person, and I'm getting those kind of feelings reciprocated, then yeah, I would just focus on that one person. It just depends on the situation and what kind of vibes I'm getting back from the person. If I feel like they're not, they like me, but they're not really, want to commit to just dating me, I would probably leave the door open for others.
Would you ever ask them to make you the only one at that point when you're communicating?
That I would only ask for that if we had been dating for quite a while, we were getting to that stage. I wouldn't just after texting with someone, talking with someone for a few days and going out on 1 or 2 dates. I would never give them that ultimatum. I would give it a little bit more time. Just because I'm not a rusher. I can't be pushed into things.
See, and I'm a little bit different in that way, and that's no disrespect to you, Holly, because that's your way of doing things. For me, I'm not so much a rusher, but once I get engaged in a certain conversation with someone, and maybe we've made a certain connection, I do ask that we be like a little bit committed to getting to know one another, and that we don't have distraction, so that we can really get to know one another. And you're kind of maybe putting some trust in that person, but if I want to make a connection, I'm really trying to, if I'm just wanting to date and fool around, that's one thing. If I'm looking for a relationship, then I want that person to be a little bit more focused on me, who I am, learn about me, get to know me, and especially after we've gone out on a date and we've met and things clicked.
Okay, Michelle, we've got 30 seconds before a break. So if you're talking to the person on Monday, they say they've got a date on Wednesday, and then a date with you on Friday, do you ask about how the date went? Or do you tell them, you know what, I don't really want you going out with that person? What would you say? We've got about 15 seconds.
Okay, you know what? When I was 35, I would say I would have been more jealous. Now that I'm 49, I'd say, how was your date?
Okay, we'll have more with Michelle and Holly about dating and online apps and websites right after this.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Jeremy Bradley back here talking about dating, online dating, dating websites, dating apps. I'm joined with fellow Bachelor Nation folks, Michelle and Holly. Hello again, ladies.
Hello.
All right, so in the last segment, we were talking about the lead up to the first date. This is, you're just chatting with somebody, and I always see this is where my whole English thing comes in, because I say that that's chatting. I don't say that you're talking. Talking is what we're doing right now. Writing back and forth messaging is not talking in the actual literal sense. Anyway, so you're chatting back and forth. You arrange the first date. We heard earlier how not to get a first date with Michelle and Holly, but I want to know the first date. Okay, what is the criteria, Michelle? What are the signals or the signs that make you say, okay, I want to meet you? Are there maybe three things on your checklist?
Yeah, I think I've learned that time of day is really important. You have to first of all also find out if you have mutual interests, like, do you drink? Do you not drink? Are you a coffee person? So maybe, and I've learned coffee dates are actually really quite safe, and they're really quite good, and they're good to get out of if you're in the midst of it. So meeting at like a Starbucks or a coffee shop and being at like 7 in the evening, something like that is really not a bad idea. If you really feel like I think to meet on the first date and it's like dinner is bad.
But,
or you don't do a movie.
Okay,
No.
But isn't there something like for me? To me, that just seems like that's setting me up to be interrogated, where you're interviewing the person back and forth. A first date, sitting there and doing coffee, like I just feel that that's set up to be like, so do you like this? Yes. Oh, I like this. Do you like this? Like I don't feel that that's a natural conversation because you're sizing each other up the whole time. Isn't that what's happening? Or I guess that's maybe the point of it. To me, it just seems like it's so. I would much rather go and say, hey, you know what, let's take the dogs for a walk, let's go to the park where it's more casual and just sort of have natural conversation. But I think in that setting, having coffee face-to-face, I don't know. I think that I would sit there going, okay, you're sizing me up. You're writing me off, whether it's based on something I say or a way that I answer a question. What do you think about that?
I actually did one, like back a number of years ago, I did suggest, because this person played baseball, I played baseball, I said, let's go to the park and throw the ball around. And that was my idea of the first date, and then go for a drink afterwards. And it was awesome. And then 2 days later, I was at a patio, and my girlfriend said, look at that guy walking across the street with some flowers. Isn't that sweet? And I turned around, and it was him.
And who was he giving them to?
He was having a date, man.
I had to.
It wasn't with me.
Oh. Okay, so what are some deal breakers on the first meeting? Holly, tell me. Everybody knows that there's always that moment where you're going to excuse yourself to the bathroom and you're going to text your friends and say this is going terribly. So what would make you check out right away, or at least not have a second date?
My number one thing is a sense of humor. I love to laugh. And if they have like a really dull personality and no sense of humor, they can't make me laugh, chances are there's not going to be a second date.
Okay, well, would you end things early, or would you just stick it out for the duration of the meal or whatever it is that you're doing?
No, I would stick it out. I would definitely stick it out. I don't want to be rude and, unnecessarily hurt someone's feelings. But yeah, if there's no, I have to have laughter. And if there's no sense of humor, it's probably not going to lead to a second date.
Okay, so then two things come out of that. One, obviously, people are going into this with the expectation of, hey, I'm seeing if we're compatible. So do you tell somebody that you're not interested during the date, or do you wait? Maybe you text them after. And secondly, is that even something you bring up? Because maybe that's you being presumptuous that, well, they're going out with me because they think it's romance. I guess maybe it's implied if you're on a dating website, but does it have to be all or nothing, or can you be friends? Michelle, what would you say?
I have to say that I can count on one hand how many people who ended up being people I thought I was going to date who are now, honestly, some of my best friends. They have become really great friends. And I think that, it can happen. When it goes back, and I hope you don't mind if I revert to this, but talking about first dates and what you do, I went out for dinner with somebody who was a gym teacher, and it was a long weekend. We met for dinner, and he was so tired from being on a bender the night before, he fell asleep at the table while I was eating my salad, and he was like, his nose was in his beer almost. And I said, I think this is over. And he said, do you want me to take the bill? I said, what do you think?
That's where you take the wallet and you run.
Well, he was a teacher. Not that they make a lot of money, but I could have done it because he was sleeping.
Okay, so now again, in another instance though, do you tell them that this is it? It goes back to what I just said. So do you tell them you're not interested during the date, or do you do it by text or message them after the fact? How do you do it, Holly? What would you say? What would you do?
I've never told someone during the date. By nature, I'm very non-confrontational unless I absolutely have to be. So my experience, I've always, if I know that I don't want to date them again, then I won't reach out to them. But if they text me, then I would text back and say, hey, look, it was nice to meeting you, but I just don't think this is going to work out.
Is there the opportunity to be friends, though?
You know what? I haven't had that experience. I'll say that. Any date from a dating app that I've gone out on that hasn't worked out, I have not remained friends with any of them, so I have not had that experience.
Okay, we're going to slip in another break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about breakups, because you'd think that with so many ways to communicate these days that it would be easy to break up, but a lot of people just sort of tend to disappear, and is that the right way to do things? We're going to talk more with Michelle and Holly right after this.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate, at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Jeremy Bradley here once again, talking relationships, online dating, dating websites, dating apps, and now the terrible, terrible breakup. And, you know, we mentioned in the last segment, again, I'm joined with Michelle and Holly, friends from Bachelor Nation. We talked about when things go wrong on a date. But when it's a relationship and things do go south, or go sour anyway, what do you do? So I want to ask you, because social media, as we said, plays a big part in relationships nowadays. When you break up, do you go through your social media pages and scrub all the pictures of your ex, or do you leave them because, you know what, that's a part of your life and that's a part of your personal history? Michelle, run with it.
Okay, well, I've gone through this, and I didn't immediately scrub anything, and then I scrubbed things that I felt were a little bit maybe too personal or too much out there. And I really did not make a big announcement on social media that things were done. I felt that that was still my business, and dealt with it with the people that were close to me, and tried not to make a big ta-da about it.
Holly, over to you.
I did not. When I had a breakup, I did not remove the pictures. What I did remove were the tags. So, because, you know, like sometimes people will creep on your Facebook page or whatever, and they'll go through your old photos. So I was scared that someone would comment on an old photo of me and that person, and then, of course, they would get notified of it. So I didn't delete all the photos. I just went and removed the tags. Okay,
so do you still go through your ex's pages, or do you block them altogether to forget about them?
I blocked mine.
Okay.
Yeah, I blocked one.
Okay. Now, you mentioned, Michelle, about no sort of big announcement. There was one, I won't say what their connection is to me, but somebody had done that when they were going through a divorce, and it was almost like this cleansing and this big relief, and people are congratulating her and doing all these things. And to me, I kind of felt that to be a little bit classless. I just kind of thought, that's your own sort of personal thing. It's one thing to maybe do that in a text, you know, privately back and forth with people, but to have that play out so publicly, I mean, I guess, you know, your ex is your ex and it's done now, and you want your friends to support you. I felt that was sort of a low blow, because you might share friends.
Agree.
Yeah,
I agree too. Yeah, I think that is classless, and you know what, you can have your background conversations with people you're close to, or whoever might say, they might start noticing, like I've had that happen before, where they say, you know, your Facebook page starts to look different because you're not posting pictures of yourself with that person or saying things about that person anymore. Is something going on? And then I've got the choice whether I want to tell them what's going on or not. I mean, in the age of social media, we have to be careful, and it does come back to bite us in the ass, if I can say that.
Oh, yeah.
If we're not careful. So we have to manage it. We just have to be really, really careful. And I choose, when I have a situation that goes sideways, to do it as much behind the scenes. I might post some cryptic crap, but for the most part, I don't air out all my dirty laundry.
Give me an example of cryptic crap.
You might, so on Facebook, even Instagram, perhaps even Twitter, you start posting all these things like, I love me, and I love me, and I'm going to love me more, and tomorrow I'm going to love me more, even more than I do today, and I'm fine with that. And then people go, okay, she's going through something.
Right.
Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right.
Okay, final question to both of you. So you're now all of a sudden in a brand new relationship, and this person is way hotter than your ex. Do you suddenly unblock the ex and maybe just, accidentally send a friend request, or no?
No, I've never done that.
Oh, you aren't gay men, are you? All right, well.
I'm too old for those days, so we should be catty. Is that what you're saying, Jeremy?
I would be proud. Those are my girls. My girls. All right. Well, we're out of time. I want to thank my Bachelor Nation friends, Michelle and Holly, for joining us on the show today. Thank you, ladies, for chiming in. Appreciate your input.
Thanks for having me.
Jeremy.
This is Jeremy Bradley on The Scribble. I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,